To know God and to make him known sounds like a really good motto, doesn't it? But does classical conversations really hold up to this? Are they money grabbing, attention seeking, a glorified social club? Today I'm going to be talking about my experience with classical conversations as a challenge for graduate. I will be addressing many concerns that people may have before joining CC, and you'll see in other YouTube videos from a balanced perspective, giving the positives and the negatives. I'll be covering the drama that I've experienced with CC, but also talking about some of the pluses of the program. This is a great video for anyone considering visiting a CC, considering homeschooling, or even considering leaving classical conversations. I'll start off with a quick introduction on who I am, then continue with an introduction on CC if you're not familiar with it, some common concerns that people have. That said, let's go and get started. My name is Rachel, and I recently graduated Challenge 4. I began the CC program in 2nd grade in Foundations and Essentials, all of the challenge levels, and just graduated Challenge 4. I've been part of CC Plus and a member of 3 different communities. I'm also deeply involved with 2 communities beyond that. My brother was in a different community than I was at one point. My mom has also tutored Foundations and Essentials and directed Challenge B and Challenge 4. We've been a part of the leadership at my classical conversations, so I'm very familiar with how all of that works as well. After classical conversations, I'll be attending a top 5 public university, UNC Chapel Hill, in the honors program, with essentially an associate's worth of dual enrollment credits transferring. I also have experience with CC across 2 different states, North Carolina and South Carolina. So that gives you some context on my authority as I'm talking about all the things in this video. It's also important for you to know a little bit about classical conversations. It is a homeschool co-op that meets once a week, and it follows a parent is the teacher model. The director is there to assist, the tutor is there to guide, but the parent at home is still the ultimate grader. They have the final say and they are the teacher. As I said, they meet once a week and they complete work at home the other 4 days of the school week. And the Foundations and Essentials program lasts K through 6th grade. Essentials begins in 4th grade. Foundations is in the first half of the day and covers several subjects. The timeline, which is a list of a bunch of different facts that students sing in a song that covers world history. History sentences, which are 24 different history sentences for each of the 3 cycles, so they rotate between the 3 cycles every 3 years. And math, which includes math facts such as multiplication. Geography, which is different depending on the cycle. Latin, which is typically memorization of Latin endings to prepare you for when you get in the challenge program. Science, which is often memorizing some kind of law or science-related fact. And English, which is often memorizing English rule. You also have science experiments and fine arts while you're in community. The Essentials program is 4th through 6th grade, and it is a writing program. LTW, you also learn number knockout and some grammar rules, and it prepares students for middle and high school level writing. In Foundations and Essentials, students are typically put into a group of students fairly close to their own age, though maybe not the exact same grade, and ideally with about 5 to 7 classmates. In Challenge, you have 6 subjects. Math, which follows a fairly standardized progressive curriculum. Latin with Henley Latin, where you incorporate those Latin endings that you've learned in Foundations and Essentials into the challenge program. Science, which again is pretty typical for a science program in school. Logic or reasoning, which is what it sounds like, you study logic. Literature or exposition, where you study writing, and debate, where you study debate and history. In Challenge, 7th through 12th grade, you are put into a group with students your own age and your own grade, and typically 5 to 12 students. You can have up to 13, and you can see occasionally classes of 3. The main teaching model, CC encourages classical education, which includes a lot of memorization, and Christian education. So all throughout the CC curriculum, you can find efforts to incorporate God into academic learnings. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the concerns that families will have before and after joining CC. I'm going to go in order of the biggest concerns families will have before joining to biggest concerns they'll have as they leave. First one is cost, because when you look at the sticker price, it can seem very, very expensive. Foundations and Essentials is about $395 in tuition per student, plus about $200 in additional expenses. And this is for each of the programs, $395 for Foundations and $395 for Essentials, which is pretty pricey, especially when you're a member of a homeschool family that has, say, 6 kids, as is very typical. Challenge is even more expensive at $1,430, at least as of the 2026 through 2027 academic year, along with similar supply fees. There are a lot of complaints saying that the cost is not worth it for the education that students get out. But I think it's important for you to realize there are ways you can get around this cost, and also to understand why it does cost so much and why it's not just as valuable to do CC at home and take away that expense. There are scholarships available through Classical Conversations to help families cover this amount. There are also some communities that minimize the tuition costs and don't pay tutors very much. Parents can also choose to step in and tutor or direct, and oftentimes this will cover all, if not the majority, of your own students' expenses. I would encourage people not to complain about the cost before they actually step in and do this. My mom, as a challenge director, would often come home and spend 2 hours every weeknight working on the material, because she would complete the material just like the other students in her class, and this would take a significant amount of time. Considering that she spent easily 10 hours preparing to direct each week, it was not very much to ask for some monetary compensation. She was taking time away from her family, taking time away from any potential part-time job she could have held, and she was becoming an expert on material that parents who have 5 or 6 students don't have the time to do. They can't sit down and learn all the information that all their students in different grades are doing. So other parents, tutors, and directors can help step in and fill that gap. For some students, of course, this is still going to be too much, and that's understandable. Maybe you're not able to tutor or direct, but it's important to understand that there is a reason for this cost. CC creates a lot of its own materials. It has a lot of programs that it runs outside of the actual communities that need to be funded, and the tutors and directors spend a significant amount of time preparing and doing a lot of work behind the scenes, enrolling students, planning out activities, even beyond preparing material. Some people might say that this is paying a lot for serving a homeschool program, because in the end, most moms end up pitching in. However, the whole point is not that you drop your kids off. It's not like a daycare or a private school where you drop your kids off. And private school would cost even more. The whole point is that it is a community, but recognizing that some people are contributing even more than others, and as a result, do deserve that compensation. The second most common concern I hear from parents is the curriculum that's used. Some people will claim that it's very basic, it's not rigorous, it's not preparing students for college level work. I would encourage families to go through Foundations, Essentials, and try some of the challenge years, because you're not going to see the fruits by just doing the basic 2 programs by themselves. The whole point is that they prepare students for the challenge years, in which they take all of the things that they've learned and they incorporate them in Challenge A through Challenge 4. For families who say they don't like having their foundations students repeating things over and over, memorizing things that they don't even understand, it's important to realize that at that age, there is only going to be so much that they are able to understand. Also, it's important to do extra things at home, like reading the backs of the timeline cards to students and having discussion, not simply going to class. But that's not the purpose of the program in the first place. Because the parent is the ultimate teacher, they should be going through those facts at home with the student. They should be having those conversations, and that's not the job of the director or the tutor in class. They're there to help review, to help answer parent questions, and really equip the parents to teach that material even more than helping the students review and prepare. And once you get into challenge, this is certainly from challenge A, in my opinion, to challenge 4, all great preparation for college courses. For families who don't stick around, especially in challenge 1 through challenge 4, you will not see or understand the benefits of the Foundations and Essentials program. All of the classmates I've had who've joined in challenge have noted how much they wish they had been part of the Foundations and Essentials, and because they see how much a benefit it is to those students. As I already mentioned, was able to get significant amount of dual enrollment credit. I was able to take AP exams based on my knowledge from the courses. I got a 1570, which is a score in the 99 plus percentile on the SAT. I have been able to do so many things. I've been very well academically prepared. As I said, I'm going to one of the best schools in the US. CC prepared me for college level courses. This curriculum did prepare me. It allowed me to learn how to write a college level style, to take college level history classes, but there were some negatives. I was personally really interested in liberal arts, which CC is right in line with. However, for students who are interested in STEM, the CC program is not going to be as good of a fit, and you would probably have to significantly supplement, or I just suggest not doing it. The math program only prepares students to go through the very beginning of calculus, and they've recently taken physics out. And the physics that was there before was only algebra based. Also, the majority of the electives classes were all liberal arts focusing, not towards STEM. So for these students, the curriculum is not going to be as good of a fit. Additionally, there's a lot of complaint that CC has too much busy work, and it does have a lot of work, but you do see the progress and the process. There's a lot of memorization, which is pretty typical for the classical learning model, and if you don't agree with the classical style, then CC might also not be as good of a fit, but just keep that in mind. It's a particular model, and it's not a problem with CC itself so much as it supports the classical models, and so that's what's going to be in its curriculum. And understand that before actually diving in. One of the other common concerns is the environment or the atmosphere which people will find at CC communities. Some communities will be more or less academically encouraging, and this is something with which I have very personal experience. I've been a member of 3 different communities. I actually changed co-ops going from challenge 3 to challenge 4, 11th and 12th grade, because I didn't feel like my old co-op provided the academic encouragement I needed for my senior year. It was definitely the case that many students did not care so much about the work. Their parents were not looking at their homework, especially as they got into high school. They were given free range and they did not turn in assignments. However, I changed classes and everything changed with that. There were many more students who were eager to do the work. They did the work, they did it well. And so a lot of this concern over the environment really just depends so much on the community you join. If the first community you visit with CC is not a fit in this area, you don't find the academic encouragement you need, it's important to go visit another community. And if you feel that your current community isn't a fit in this way, again, I encourage you to go visit another place. Especially in metropolitan or urban areas, communities will actually be able to pick which families do or do not join their community because there's just so many options and so many CC communities. They have the ability to say, hey, you're not taking all 6 subjects. You're not going to be doing all of the work at home for these subjects, so we're not going to accept you here. We suggest you try these other communities instead. And getting into one of those more academically motivated CCs would be really good. Additionally, it depends on the class. So I would really suggest visiting all the classes for your kids' ages because some classes are just going to have a better environment than others. At the end of the day, this just depends so much on the CC community, and it can be tough to find a academically motivating homeschool group no matter what co-op it is. This is not a problem with classical conversations in general, having a hard time to find a rigorous academic environment or motivated students. It's a problem with homeschool co-ops. The final concern that many people will have is over the structure of CC, being afraid that it'll take too much autonomy away from teachers or that it's too free ranging. So I've heard so many different perspectives on this. Many tutors or directors are much more hands-on. They'll take homework, they'll look through homework. You should never have a director grading assignments, though they may provide feedback if the parent was not present. Everything operates a little bit differently and every director has a little bit of a different style, but it's important to remember that you as the parent ultimately have the authority on how your child is treated in that classroom. And even if all the students are treated somewhat differently, it's important that you step in, you speak up for that child, and if the director refuses to do it that way, then there are higher authorities you can go to. CC has recently changed the structure so that challenge directors are now more like tutors, and so they're going to have a director who is over them and can be that ultimate regulating authority. This was not the case while I was in CC, and I actually approve that this has changed, even though there are certainly some negatives to it. I had a little bit of drama in my own challenge 3, challenge 4 this coming year, which was part of why I changed. My class was going to be 3 people. I did not want to be in a 3-person class, so I was trying to join a nearby community. It was about 25 minutes away. However, because the director had the ultimate autonomy to make a decision, and she did not want to add any new students, even though the cap for the class is technically 12, there were only 8 in the class, she chose to turn me away, which in the end meant that I would not have had a CC class unless there was, in fact, a class an hour away from me, which I now drive to. Due to the recent structural changes, there will be an authority over her doing the enrollment and making sure that all the directors stay a little bit more in check. Because when someone is a parent and a mom in the class, it's much easier for emotions to get in the way and for feelings to get in the way. It's just not quite as professional sometimes. However, I think the recent changes will help fix many of these problems. Again, I'm a CC graduate, and I hope you did find this video helpful. If you've been part of CC, I'd love to hear your perspective. Please put that in the comments below, whether it's good or bad, to help give advice to other prospective families. Everyone comes from a different background, and so it's important to share all your different perspectives. But ultimately, I hope this video helps you as you're either deciding whether to change CCs, drop CC, or join a CC. At the end of the day, everything is to the glory of God.